They got us as a rare treat. 015 Subaru Forester. Needs brakes and a lube change. Have a look under the bonnet. Let's get cracking. I apologize to all you Aussies and Kiwis, whoever I sounded the worst like, but I really like our little Subaru. It has the little flat 4 in it. Really good little car. We've done well so far with it. Got a lot of miles on it, around 70,000 miles. I don't know what that translates to in kilometers. Second set of tires on it. We're still in pretty good shape. I've got a brake squealing somewhere. We're going to go through the shoes. I've got rear brakes to put on it. I don't have any front pads. I hope it's not a front pad. I just changed those recently. Then we're going to change the oil. Here's the little oil filler right on top. It's awesome. And the drain plug's pretty easy to get to. But I'm going to go ahead and raise the car up anyway and get it on jack stand so I can get the wheels off of it. I sprayed the engine off, and I've got a little water down in the oil drain back, and if you're not careful when you take this off, the water will drain into the engine. So I got to make sure I get all that dirt and water out of there before I pull this filter. I buy these filters by the case because nobody carries the Subaru filter, and I don't want to use a different brand, so I just ordered the Subaru filters by the case. It's a lot easier and way less expensive. And you've got them on hand whenever you need them. So let's get this raised up and we'll get back. I bought these little lights off Amazon. I think they're like 2 for $25 or something like that. I've been seeing a lot of people use them. They got a magnetic base that swivels. They're made a lot like the little snap-on lights. But I come over here to put my light up on this hood, and it doesn't stick. This hood is aluminium. What do you know? Didn't know that. So I need to be more careful with it. The aluminium bends easy. So let's get this somewhere where it'll stick. And it sticks here. That's metal, I guess. Gotta get this water out of this oil filter hole here. And whatever debris down in it. I'm not sure what this engine is. It's the base engine. Let's see if I can get the sticker. I don't see anything. It just says what group it is. 2.5 liter. Doesn't say it on the top, I don't believe. Probably about due a serpentine belt. Won't be long. We'll get this cleaned up. When I get this filter off, I'll come back. There's always been a big debate about whether or not you should pre-fill your filters. The Subaru just shows that their filters are empty all the time. You can't pre-fill it upside down. Whatever comes out is going starting to drain. But these filters, they stay upside down constantly. So the debate about pre-filling, maybe it's good in some cases, but I don't think it's empty long enough to matter. Because as soon as this starts up, it pressurizes the oil filter and fills it with oil. Let me get this oil out of here. Look, I thought it was going to drain back, but apparently it just holds there. Let me clean it. There's the little well all cleaned up. Cool thing about these lights is you can dim them. Kind of make the picture a little better. That's neat. Guess they're thinking about the YouTubers. We've got a little oil on our seal here on our O-ring. Just going to drop it down on here and spin it on. Hand tied is fine. It's got a little oil on it. Down off there. Now let's get us a marker and write the date. Put the date and also put the mileage. That way I've got a reference from how many miles I'm driving or how many months it takes for an oil change. I've been doing that on all of them. I don't remember if the last one had the mileage or not, but it should have. It usually helps. Now I need to move on to the bottom and get the oil out of it. Going after the oil pan now. Used a 17mm wrench. Let's see if I can get it out of there without dropping it everywhere. And it's going to get stuck right at the very end. There it goes. Hard to hold the camera and get the plug at the same time. Kind of watery. Put some miles on this thing. Let's get this all drained out and then we'll come back. I want to mention for anybody doing this themselves, there's absolutely no lift points on the front of this car where you can put your jack. Everything under this car in the front's plastic. I mean everything. There's nowhere to put the jack. You have to go, there's flat spots on the rocker back there where the jack's sitting. If you can see it on either side. And that's the only really exposed parts that ain't covered with plastic. So you can, where the frame connects to the body there, you can jack on that point. And then I put a jack stand right behind it on a solid part of the rocker. It looked like it had a little cutout for a jack. So that's where I put the jack stands. It looks like that's where you jack when you have to change your wheels anyway. I've had this car up a few times, but I forget every time I do it that I have to put everything back behind the wheels because there's nowhere in front to secure anything. Everything under here is plastic. The transmission pan and the exhaust are the only things that show up here in front, so you don't want to put a jack on any of those things and destroy them. So you got to go back to the factory lift points that are just behind the wheels. They give you plenty of room for your wrench, or you can get your oil drain plug. There's plenty of room for it to drain so it doesn't get all over all the plastic. Clearly they were thinking about people having to do maintenance on this when they designed this whole setup. Unlike the GM designers on these trucks, they put the oil plug above everything that has a gutter in it, so when you pull the plug out of the GM trucks, it drains all down your frame, all down the side of your rails. It drains on everything except the pan. I don't know why they set those pickups up that way, but they are a pain in the rump. But this little thing is clearly gives you plenty of room, and you can see it easily, and plenty of room to get the oil out. That's nice. Put 0 W20 Mobil 1 high mileage. It's for 75,000 plus, but this car's around 70,000 miles. It's 70,600. So that's what we're going with. We got a glow-in-the-dark funnel here. We're going to put this Mobil 1 in. On these Scoobies, you want to keep the oil change regularly, and you want to always use pure synthetic motor oil. Don't put regular mineral oil in, but I don't even think they make a regular motor oil that has 0 W20. So you pretty much have to use the synthetic. This thing, it's a 5-quart jug. It's supposed to hold just 5 quarts, but it usually takes just a tad more out of a separate jug. It takes about 5.5 in my experience. After looking at these pads, we've decided that we're going to go ahead and take the rotors and have them turned. They've got a pretty good lip on them, showing some wear, and a little bit of wear in the back. So we're going to take these rotors off and turn them. And I don't have any pads for the front, so I got to stop and get them, but we do have pads for the back, and we're hoping we don't have to turn the rear rotors. We'll just go ahead and slap those rear pads on and then put all this stuff back on in the morning. Matt's going to take this caliper off of this Scooby. It's got, what'd you say it was, 15 millimeter?
14 millimeter.
14 millimeter bolts. Should take it right off the bracket. We should get this rotor off. And just, this rotor was being stubborn, and it doesn't have any screws holding it on there, but it's got kind of a rust built up around it, around the bearing part. So Matt's going to put some metric jack screws in here, and he's going to run that rotor off with those jack screws. Because the rotor itself is threaded, and it's pushing against the backing plate. It seems to be driving it off. Just keep going back and forth. Should slide itself right on off there. There it is. I've never seen one with threads in the rotor, but pretty cool.
That's why they're there.
Yep. I got the rear rotors now, which the rear rotors look okay. Matt's going to roll these calipers back and take a look at the pads. And we've already got the pads here. I just don't have the front pads. They're not bad. They look pretty good. We're going to change them anyway because I have some. Just flip that other one out. Not bad at all. Must be the front ones that's squealing, even though they're not worn out. They just sit up in there squealing. Let me grab the other for comparison. We're going to look. Those are pretty worn compared to the new ones. The new ones are, the groove's nearly gone on this top one. It's got a deep groove on the second set, so it probably needed to be changed. I'm just going to try to water these things back in there. Do they move pretty smooth? Make sure they move pretty smooth, or we'll have to get the rust out from under the clips. Right on. Matt's cleaned his little noise and isolation clips. He put some brake lube on the clips themselves. He's clipping them back into the mount. And then these pads they were to slide right in there and move a little better. There was some rust underneath them, made them awful tight, so we took them back off and cleaned the little clips. Try to make it stay in there just a little better. And now all we gotta do is reverse what we already done and slap it back together. Push it toward the front of the part. Matt's had to get his Mac Tools caliper compressor out. Like it's not wanting to go in, does it? Couldn't get it to go over top of the new shoes. Kind of rusty. I hope it's not bad. Still a little tight, isn't it? That's got everything back on there now. He's just got to run his bolts up and tighten them to spec and slap the wheel on it, and this rear wheel passenger side will be finished. We'll move on to the other side. Now, it looks like it's a little more eat up on this driver's side, so that could be our squeal. But we're going to put new pads on it and go with it, and then we're going to put clean turn rotors on the front. The back doesn't get nearly as much wear as the front does, even though it probably needs to be turned. The dealer will turn them on the car, but we're just going to go ahead and put new pads on it and go with it, and then we'll probably turn the rotors at a later date.
Well, it is almost 11 o'clock the next morning, and I just got back from O'Reilly's with the parts. I had to drop the parts off and wait 1 hour because they were extremely busy and short-handed this morning. So here's the rotors after you have them turned. If they are under spec, you have to buy a new pair. These were practically brand new. This is the first time these rotors have ever been turned, so they were still in spec. So they turn front and back on the rotors, and it costs $10 for car rotors and $12 for truck and SUV rotors. For both these rotors, you know, it's $24. Also got a set of the Brake Best Select Premium ceramic brakes. They come with a new pack of keepers. So we're going to go ahead and reinstall them on the car. I took the time yesterday to mark both of these rotors as to which side of the car they came off of. Now, I don't really know that you have to do that, but I don't like to mix them up. I like to keep everything where it come off of, because sometimes things wear a certain way. Before we get ready to install the rotor back on the car, we're going to clean it up just a little bit, especially on the back side, because you can't really get to it because of the dust shield. As you can see, the dust shield's dirty too, so we're going to clean that up. I don't have any brake parts cleaner, which is what you should use, but I have something pretty close to it, start fluid, and it will get it off. So we're going to clean the rotor, clean all back in here around the hub and the dust shield and everything, and get all that off so that way it doesn't get all over our nice new brakes. Now with the rotor reinstalled and cleaned, we'll go ahead and reinstall our caliper bracket. It's held on in the back by two 13mm bolts. Next step in the process would be to go ahead and install your new clips that come with the top, or they come with a top and a bottom. There is a difference. One has a little ear, the other does not. And go ahead and put a little bit of brake lubricant down in the grooves. I've already did it to all 4 of the grooves for this. The next step will be to install your pads. Okay, now that we got our pads installed, next thing to do would be to reinstall our caliper and compress our brake cups. For this, we're going to actually mount it back on the vehicle, flip it upright, and then use a brake compression tool. And also remember to take your cap off of your master cylinder, so that way to relieve the pressure. That way you don't compress anything and blow anything up when you're doing this. You can, if you don't have a brake compression tool, you can use the old pad and a C-clamp if you don't have the tool to do it. If you'd like the tool to do it, they're not very expensive. You can rent them. When reinstalling our caliper, this is a twin piston caliper. So if you push one in, it'll oftentimes push the other out as you're doing that. So what I did to get by with that, as I compress, I'll compress one in, and then as I compress the second one, I just held the other one with my thumb and forefinger like that, and it allowed me to have enough clearance to have both pistons compressed in on the caliper enough to slide it on. And then you just put your two 13mm bolts back in, top and bottom, get them lined up, don't cross thread them, and tighten these back up, and then basically you should be ready to put the wheel back on. For our passenger side, it was just a repeat of what we did on the driver's side. No need to show that twice, but when you get done, go back, put your cap back on your brake fluid reservoir, let the car back down off of jack stands, and tighten all your lug nuts with a bar and a socket. In this case, the Subaru takes a 19mm and go on a star pattern. I always like to go back and check them and torque them by hand rather than just trusting the gun, because I've actually had a wheel come off on me, and then, well, Dad's had a wheel come off on him too. That's what happened to his Nova. So always go back and recheck everything and check all your work, make sure everything's tight before you ever try to drive the car. And that's how you change the brakes on a 2015 Subaru Forester. Thank you. Have a good night.